people are waiting for you.
Hello? Is it me you're looking for? Darling, it's me. I'm back. And we've got a whole lot of discussing to do. But first, if you're new to this channel, I'm KAGO SAUL, but some call me Kafunina with the cuteness. The baddest in the school, the baddest in the game, the baddest in his own lane, and this is my channel. Hi! Now let me tell you, this chapter is going to be the most honest and the funniest chapter we've had so far. Now, I know it's only chapter 2, but I mean, look at the garments, darling. I don't think you guys appreciated that. Let me show you one more time. Leather, darling, leather. Oh, and mother, let me show you. Sickening. You girls couldn't afford. Sickening. But now that we're here, let me just say to you, I appreciate everything that you do when I gyrate. Hey, hey. Okay, let's be serious. Let us be serious. Darling, green is the color of growth, so I said, let us start this channel with the green, because you know why we're growing. And last time, we almost had a low-cost budget production when your boy wasn't dressed for the nines. So I said, let me redeem myself on the green. And let me show you what earrings we have today. Come closer. Do you see this? This is called an eagle phoenix, darling. I wear these because in chapter 2, the skin is gonna perpetually glow. The money is gonna perpetually flow. And the channel is gonna perpetually grow. Hey! So, what I wanted to do for this video is, as a storyteller, sometimes what you process in your mind isn't always translated, and if it is, some people don't understand. And the last video I did, where I did a bit of poetry, my trying to write a poem in 30-minute video, which was not clickbait, by the way. Someone had asked me to explain the poetry and explain some of my writing, and so I thought, why don't I start with that, because this channel and this chapter is going to be heavily involved in writing and telling the stories. And the previous month that we come from was a very emotionally burdening month, especially given the context of our country, and we carry that burden and we carry that pain into our perpetuity. Like, we live with it now. How I processed emotion in that time was to write, and some of that writing I shared on my website, Love and Mercy, which you should check out. The link is here. Check it out. I don't know how many poems I'll do, that I don't know, but I think it's fitting that I start this chapter with a bit of writing. I think it's fair that we check. Don't even come for my cover. Look at this. Look at this. Stunning, sickening photography by Tatenda Chidora. Amazing. One day you guys are gonna see my things and you're gonna have to buy them, because you know I'm a photographer, and maybe I'll show you some of the work that I shot since the last time you and I were together. So we're gonna open Love and Mercy by KAGO SAUL. Currently, this is how it looks, darling. And how it works is, because I'm such a multi-dimensional, multi-talented being, when you open it, you get 3 tabs, right? Saul's pen, Saul's studio, and Saul's lens. Saul's pen is where all my writing goes. Saul's studio is where all my concept photography goes. And Saul's lens is where all my booked photo shoots go. So you can book me to shoot for you. You can book me to be your writer, darling. That's what I'm saying. So we're gonna click Saul's pen. The first poem I'm starting with is entitled Bleeding Bodies, Remembering Her Name. This was a concept photography shoot that I did with 2 beautiful models of mine, Chedza and Lerato. And it was just, yeah. The opening, to contextualize, reads as follows. In 1956, over 20,000 bleeding bodies marched to the Union buildings in fight for the rights to their own autonomy. 63 years later, South Africans, both bleeding and not, remember this day, remember this month, in honor of the woman who painted hexagons red, demanding for the past of lost stuff. Now with that context, we can get into the poem. Trigger warning, you may know her, you may know the experience, you may bleed from your body too. When I think of the hypocrisy that exists in this country and how gender and race operate, I think of men who glorify and praise women on the 9th, catcall them on the 10th, beat them on the 11th and kill them on the 12th. I think of men and how they try to emasculate themselves into gods by plowing into the crevices of every goddess they encounter. How they try to remind the female autonomy that the Bible says that it was made from man's rib, yet fail to remind the inadequacies that it also says her body is a temple, something to be worshipped and worshipped in. I think of women, the ones who fulcrum this nation on their back, despite receiving kisses from fists from men who showed their affection through blushing bruises. I think of men who are happy sinners and women who are breadwinners. I think of women whose stomachs speak more than they do, whilst their rib cages that line up like prison bars. I think of prison bars and how they're filled to capacity by men. I think of men who hate being called rape enablers more than they hate rapists, the same way white people hate being called racist more than they hate racism. I think of how God's gifts are forcefully returned in mailboxes from post office, knowing nothing of a God. I think of God and how sometimes his silence is deafening. How I've heard men justify that exact silence to be consent. I think of now. So this poem is something that is incomplete because I feel like perpetually bodies continue to bleed. I didn't know how to end it because to end it would imply an end to the bleeding that their bodies experience, and that's not the truth. So let me just explain this poem a bit, right? So the foreword says, in 1956, over 20,000 bleeding bodies marched to the Union buildings. And bleeding bodies is a term that I continually use throughout the poem, because not only is it the title, but it's a double metaphor. And so the term bleeding bodies, I used it as an all-encompassing term for all bodies, femme bodies, that identify with it. So it's not meant to exclude, although the double metaphor is both that of ovulation and period blood, and of being stabbed and killed, and your blood runs through your body, or throughout your body, or from your body, right? I use this term specifically because I think it's powerful in how the metaphor speaks for itself, right? I bleed not because I want to, both times. And so the first opening line, when I think of the hypocrisy that exists in this country and how gender and race operates, is a reflection on an attempt to contextualize the poem. So the mere fact that I'm a black male body does not mean my experience is the same to that black male body. And so I wanted to start off by saying, think about it, and think about what hypocrisy could exist. Especially because of the gender you occupy. I thought it was important that you reflected on the space and how you inhabit it before you could interrogate the poem truthfully. The second part, I think of men who glorify and praise women on the 9th, catcall them on the 10th, beat them on the 11th, and kill them on the 12th, is a memory of Women's Day and how we celebrate it on the 9th. And I wanted it to be quick. I wanted it to show that men might celebrate women on one day, but the next day they back to catcalling them. And when they don't get a response from the catcalling, then they kill them, then they beat them. I wanted you to feel like, but that's a space of 3-4 days, if anything. And how do I go from being sitting on a throne to being buried in a casket? You know, I wanted you to feel that. And now, in this poem, the keynote is, as a writer, I write both to be understood and to express, right? And sometimes my beliefs need to be written in a way they'll be understood. And so although my conception of God is that God is a being, is a body and a being that exists in whatever form and whatever identity you would like, for the purpose of this poem, I identified God as male because of how religion as a whole has structured God in Christianity to be male. And so I say, because man is made in God's image, man always tries to emasculate themselves into a god. But they take it upon themselves to make themselves a god by plowing into the crevices of every body of a woman that they encounter. And I said goddess in the poem, right? But when I describe it, I mean a goddess is damn right anybody who feels like one. In scripture it says that woman is made of man's rib. And I thought it was important to have that metaphor because men think it their duty to remind women that scripture has said that they are of them. So we move on, and I say, yet they fail to remind their inadequacies that it also says that her body is a temple, something to be worshipped and worshipped in. I think that's very self-explanatory. So I say, I think of women who fulcrum this nation on their backs, despite receiving kisses from fists from men who showed their affection through blushing bruises. I thought that was a beautiful metaphor, because by beautiful I mean it's painful, right? who show their affection through blushing bruises, because usually when somebody loves you or when someone shows affection to you, your body responds, and usually most of the time it's by blushing. And the metaphor that I was making here is blushing bruises. When somebody bruises you, you first turn red before you turn blue. And so it was you needed to feel like you had just been punched, right? And I think of men who are happy sinners and women who are breadwinners. I think of women whose stomachs speak more than they do. I once read a tweet about some lady who couldn't escape her abusive relationship because she had to feed her child. And so I thought about how much pain she went through and how much pain people in her similar situations go through when they can't speak, right? And the only sounds that their bodies make are the sounds of hunger, and a hunger of not the physical of consumption, but the hunger for freedom. I think that's what I was saying. Stomachs that speak more than they do. Then I juxtapose that by saying their stomach speaks more than they do with their rib cages that line up like prison bars. I think of prison bars and how they fill to capacity. This means that women are imprisoned in their own bodies by virtue of being born women. And so I wanted it to be my very being of being alive is a death sentence. That's what I wanted it to feel like. Then the prison bars by men line, I think we all understand that. And it makes me numb to think about prisons as a whole, not just in South Africa, but as an international phenomenon, and how the US government spends more on maintaining prisons and building prisons than they do on education, and how those influences of how to govern criminals and how to govern society trickle down into our existence in non-first world countries. Think of men who hate being called raping ableist more than they hate rapists. The same way white people hate being called racist more than they hate racism. Period. Let's repeat that. I think of men who hate being called raping ableist more than they hate rapists. The same way white people hate being called racist more than they hate racism. Now, I'm not going to explain that. We know that's the truth. And if you don't know, sis, open your eyes, right? And if you're a man and you're watching this, let us not lie, right? And when I say rape and ableist, I don't mean the physical of it. I mean when you sit quiet while your friends make rape jokes, while your friends catcall, that is rape culture, darling. So if you needed me to spell it out for you, the link to the poem's gonna be there. Read it over and over and over again till you not participate in those toxic behaviors. Period. And now, this is the line that shattered me when writing. What I expressed in this moment of writing, cause I'm a bad girl, you know what I'm saying? I'm a bad bee. Was, damn, period, you just wrote a bar. And the more I reread it I thought, this is a trigger. So this is the line that I'm going to say, trigger warning for, you may know her. It reads as follows. I think of how God's gifts are forcefully returned in mailboxes from post office that know nothing of a God. I think of God and how sometimes his silence is deafening. How I've heard men justify that exact silence as consent. Now my research of uyinene means to be a gift from God, right? Your God's gift to us. And so when I wrote it, it was written in the height of us trying to make sense of what was happening and what had happened to Uyinene, and we were still trying to find her. This is when it was written. It makes me emotional just thinking about it, right? Then obviously silence is deafening in times where we were asking for answers and we're asking for prayers and it seems like we're not getting none. And I juxtapose that by saying how the silence that we sometimes receive from God, many use to justify as consent, right? In silence. But silence can never be consent. And so it plays back into the forceful return of God's gifts to God. So I ended by saying, when I think of this country and how race and gender operate, I think of women who raise their fists like mute prayers, praying to disappear. I think of women who seek peace in the face of defeat, for she is struggling to make ends meet. That was just to say, I see you. It was really about how when everything has been taken from you, when somebody has violated your dignity and your autonomy, sometimes you don't find comfort in prayer, but you find comfort in knowing that you could disappear. And so you pray to disappear. Ultimate pain about this writing was, but they have to see peace in the face of defeat. And that for me was a reality that was painful to be honest in. That's the end of the poem. I hope I've given you a bit of a into my mind, a bit of a understanding of what goes behind the writing process. There will be a lot more writing. There will be brighter poems, but as long as bodies continue to bleed, I'm gonna bleed as well. And so sometimes we can't fashion blood into beauty, and you know, but I think it is so important that we share our truth and we share our story. I would like to say thank you so much for being here. This chapter is going to be honest, it's going to be beautiful, and it's going to be healing and filled with growth. And so, girl, you're already here, so you might as well like, comment, and subscribe for good vibes. Until you and I see each other again, I send you light, I send you positivity, I send you blessings. But above that, darling, I send you skin that glows like mine, earrings as bad as mine. I send you a sickening, slim waist, big waist, slim, ooh.